In any event,
those were the teams they're playing. Go ahead.
Yeah. What's their over/under? 10.5 this year.
With some hesitancy, I will go over. I think that, look, I'm just going to take a chance and think, okay, they'll be healthier on defense. Last 2 years, the defense hadn't been that healthy. I think they'll be healthier. The offense should still be great.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, I definitely still think he's a great coach. And I think, again, kind of like the Ravens, coming off a bad year in which you missed the playoffs, I think there's going to be a fire lit under them, and I think they're going to have a bounce-back season.
Too big of a number. I'll go under. Doesn't mean they don't have a bounce-back year. 10-7 be a bounce-back year. 10-7 probably, it probably makes the playoffs. They have a ton of free agents on defense. They don't have a lot of cap space. I don't love the defensive personnel outside of Hutchinson, and all of a sudden, what had been their strength, their offensive line, no longer feels that way. I don't know that they have gotten offensive coordinator, solved post Ben Johnson, and so I like the slight under in pencil for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. I had to laugh when he said, oh, because of how last season ended, they're going to have a fire lit underneath them this year. Come on now. This is the Detroit Lions we're talking about. Their culture is always to have that fire burning. They've built one of the best organizational cultures in the entire NFL, and they are consistently one of the teams that shows up most prepared, most ready to compete, regardless of the circumstances. It doesn't matter if they're playing for a championship or if they're in last place with nothing to play for. That's just who they are. And I respect the heck out of it. I mean, I genuinely respect it more than I can properly express. I was the one last season keep telling people, look out for the Lions in that Phenom game against the Bears. And everybody was pushing back. They were saying, no. Are you kidding me? Amon-Ra St. Brown is injured. This guy's out. That guy's banged up. And I kept thinking, I don't know what you guys are watching. Do you not pay attention to the Detroit Lions? Do you not understand their culture, their mantra, the code they live by? It's just who they are as an organization. So it doesn't matter what happened last season or the season before. They play every single game like it's their last opportunity. You don't hear that kind of mentality described often in modern football, but the Lions absolutely embody that approach. And I respect it, I love it, and I appreciate it big time. Because you just know that anytime the Lions take the field, regardless of who they're playing, whether it's a terrible team or a great team, you can count on it being interesting. It's going to be exciting. That's a guarantee. But before I go any further, Detroit Lions fans, please do not forget to subscribe and watch the full length of this video. When you guys do that, views go through the roof, subscribers go through the roof, and as I keep trying to emphasize, I'm not just chasing numbers for the sake of numbers. Obviously, I want the views. Obviously, I want the subscribers. But it's really about creating content that people genuinely want to watch, so I can keep producing the most unbiased, grounded Detroit Lions content that I possibly can. I'm trying to get over this 80,000 subscriber hump, and ideally, I want to reach 100,000. I'm just trying to create something special here. So please don't forget to watch the full length of the video and hit that subscribe button. When you watch the full video and subscribe at the same time, it's one of the best ways to support the growth of this channel. So please do consider doing that. Now, getting back to the Lions. To me, it's clear, and I think I've said this before, but they have too many weapons on offense. There are too many players that I fundamentally believe in for this unit to struggle. I don't need an elite offensive coordinator for the Lions to be competitive. Now, are you better with a great OC? Of course you are. That's obvious. But even when Dan Campbell was calling plays, this offense kept humming. There's just too much talent there for them not to produce, and there's too much experience too. Too many veterans at this point on that side of the ball. Just look at Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. They are constantly on the same page. Are those two ever not on the same page? That connection alone carries so much weight. So all you really need is to avoid a complete disaster from a play-calling standpoint. And this offense is going to be productive. It's going to move the ball and put up points. That's before you even factor in Jahmyr Gibbs and all the other weapons they have. So that side of the ball is settled. To me, the entire conversation comes down to the defense. It always does with this team. And people say, well, I think they'll be healthier this year. And it's like, who knows? Because they haven't been healthy for the last couple of seasons. That's just a fact. But as long as this defense can stay on the field, as long as the key pieces are available, then the Lions will be a top team in the NFL. They will be a legitimate contender. That 10.5 win total keeps coming up in these discussions. I keep talking about this pattern. All the top teams are sitting at 10.5. I don't know if there are any 11.5 lines out there, but every team predicted to be elite, predicted to win their division, they're all clustered at that 10.5 mark. And to me, that makes absolute sense when you look at the consistency the Lions have been able to play with, the talent they have on the roster, and even the coaching situation. Even if you don't 100% believe in every single coach on that staff, at least on both sides of the ball at this moment in time, outside of Dan Campbell, of course, they're not massive liabilities compared to what we saw from other teams last season. Take the Eagles, for example. Kevin Patullo was a liability as a play caller at times, right? There was a clear weakness there. But they had enough talent on offense, and their defense was good enough to overcome it. They were able to win their division and make the playoffs. It was actually kind of fitting when you looked at the game where the Lions and Eagles played each other. Both teams were kind of struggling from a play-calling standpoint. Both were having moments of confusion and inconsistency. But the Eagles' defense was simply better on that day. Their defense was able to hold their own. And Jalen Hurts brings a different dimension. He can be a little more resilient as a quarterback because of what he can do with his legs, even though he didn't put that on full display last season. But there's a degree of resiliency there that a pure pocket passer, like Jared Goff, just doesn't have. Goff is more at the mercy of the offensive structure and the play calling. When things break down around him, it's harder for him to create. But at this point, I don't see why you would have big doubts about the Detroit Lions. The last clip I made about the Lions, I talked about how they have too good of a culture to fail. And I do believe they have too good of a coaching staff. Again, I'm not talking about some upper echelon, historically great staff, but they're just too good across the board. Really, what it comes down to is they're simply too talented and too well coached to just be straight up bad. To be mediocre, to look at this roster, this coaching staff, this culture, and say they're only winning 8 games, I just don't see how that's possible unless you start incorporating catastrophic injuries. Now, the conversation changes when you're trying to figure out if this team can win the Super Bowl. That's when you start asking, how good is the offensive coordinator? How good is the offensive line? How good are the corners? Right? That's a different discussion entirely. And that's just not the conversation we're having right now, because you can't have that conversation every single day for the next 9 months. So to me, I like to take these types of questions at face value. Lions win total 10.5 for the upcoming season. Essentially, you're asking, will this team be a legitimate top team in the NFL? Yes or no? And I just think yes. They have everything in place for that. Everything beyond that is in the details, in the execution. Figuring out anything beyond that baseline is a wait-and-see proposition. But I find it hard to believe that as presently constructed, they're only going to win 8 or 9 games. If their defense hadn't been decimated by injuries the way it was the year before, they'd already be there. Even with some questionable play calling and game management decisions mixed in. But I do want to say this, and then I'll end here. This will probably become its own separate video at some point. I do think the Lions absolutely, positively need to evolve past just relying on going for it on 4th down. To me, that wasn't gravy for the Lions. It wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. If they converted the 4th downs, they won the games. If they didn't, they lost. They needed to convert those 4th downs just to get the victory. Compare that to the Eagles of 2024. They went for it a lot on 4th down too, but they didn't actually need it. It wasn't the difference between winning and losing for them. There are so many games the Lions have lost where you're just sitting there thinking, man, if only they had converted that 4th down, they probably win that game. They have to be able to win games without that crutch. They have to find a way where that can't be the entire foundation of their identity. Not, hey, you know what we do? We go for it on 4th down, we're hyper-aggressive, that's who we are. They have to evolve past that being the deciding factor. I think they're too good of a team, and they have too many talented players on offense to always need that to be the difference between winning and losing. It can be gravy. It can be the cherry on top. But I don't think it can be the turkey or the ice cream. We're really mixing and matching some food analogies here, but you get what I'm saying. You don't want the cherry to be the main course. I guess some people do put fruit on turkey, cranberry sauce and whatnot. I don't do that personally, so I don't even know what it tastes like. Is it sweet? Is it sour? You tell me. But let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get some discussions going. Let's get into some debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun with it. And please do consider subscribing to the channel. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love seeing you be a part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. This really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.